Welcome to day 226. And as you can see, if you've done your reading, we are all over the place in 2nd Chronicles, 1st Chronicles, Jeremiah, and 2nd Kings. So let's get at it. Actually, a short discussion today. Something about God's description of how he speaks and how he speaks through thunder. That's just one way he speaks. So let's look at chapter 51, verse 16. When he speaks in the thunder, the heavens roar with rain. He causes the clouds to rise over the earth. He sends the lightning with the rain and releases the wind from his storehouses. God is in control of the weather, first of all. He speaks in thunder as one way of him speaking. He also speaks to the prophets. He also has walked with Adam and Eve and so on and so forth. He speaks through Jesus. Jesus is the Lord. You could go on and on and on. But at this point, we're looking at he speaks through thunder. Revelation 4:5. From the throne came flashes of lightning and the rumble of thunder. And we could go on from there, but I want to save that for later. So understanding God uses lots of different ways to communicate. Jesus talked with a blast, a mighty trumpet blast. In Revelation, we'll read that at some point in time. So just something to add to your description of God, speaks through thunder. And then we read a lot about Babylon. In Jeremiah, we have a lot of Babylon references, and in these last few chapters in Jeremiah are all about Babylon coming and taking Jerusalem captive and into exile. We finally get that in this. So I want to read about the fallen. Remember, Babylon is fallen. That's in Revelation, falls twice. We talked about that yesterday. Here's another reference to Babylon falling one time, okay? 51 verse 41. Chapter 51 verse 41. How Babylon is fallen. Great Babylon, praised throughout the earth. Now she's become an object of horror among the nations. And you read through all of this, it just talks about it's going to be a desolate place. So, and this is talked about when Babylon is taking them into exile. So we just now are reading about them being taken into exile, but it also talks about Babylon's going to be destroyed. And then we get into the kings. So your kings list, we finally get Zedekiah and an understanding. Zedekiah was mentioned a few days ago, and I didn't say anything about it because I wanted to wait for it to catch up into the description of Zedekiah. So let's look at Zedekiah in 2nd Chronicles 36:10. And there's lots of different references. I'm confused at why they did multiple different things back and forth. Why not just read the whole thing? But they didn't ask me. So 2nd Chronicles 36:10 says, in the spring of the year, King Nebuchadnezzar took Jehoiakim to Babylon. Many treasures from the temple of the Lord were also taken to Babylon at that time. And Nebuchadnezzar installed Jehoiakim's uncle. Not Jehoiakim's son, because usually it's the son that takes over. It's Jehoiakim's uncle, which is Jehoiakim's brother, Zedekiah, as the next king in Judah and Jerusalem. Okay, so I'm just going to, instead of going back and forth, I'm going to read a couple of these things. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. But Zedekiah did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and he refused to humble himself when the prophet Jeremiah spoke to him directly from the Lord. So God sent Jeremiah to talk to him, and Zedekiah actually sent to have Jeremiah pray to have them saved. And that didn't go well. And then you go back to 1st Chronicles, the first chapter. We're not going to go back there. And it's the whole lineage from Noah all the way to where we're at. So it's kind of cool to see that lineage. If you made a lineage like I did from the very beginning, and you worked really hard to keep track of that, you found that what you did was correct, because in 1st Chronicles it lays it out for you. But I think it's best if you did it on your own. Let's go and read a little bit more about Zedekiah today, because that'll be it. So let's go to Jeremiah 52, verses 1 through 3. 52, 1 through 3. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. His mother was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah from Libnah, not the same Jeremiah from this book. But Zedekiah did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as Jehoiakim had done. These things happened. This is why I wanted to read this. These things happened because of the Lord's anger against the people of Jerusalem and Judah, until he finally banished them from his presence and sent them into exile. Boom. There. They're going into exile at this point. So we've been talking about this forever. All of Jeremiah really is about saying, hey, you're going to get exiled. You're going to get exiled. You're exiled. So you're gone. So that is the reason that it was an exile. And again, we keep talking about it. 1600 years to the flood, from Noah, finally to the chosen people, from the chosen people all the way down to Jerusalem's people, which is still the chosen people, and eventually just says, enough, you're done. So we're talking about hundreds and thousand years of warnings and trying to get people to realize that God has our best interest at heart. Look at the timeline of how much God's mercy and grace is given. And even then, he says, in your exile, a remnant I will save, and I will bring you back here for my own sake, not because of what you've done. That's the beautiful thing in this whole book. It is the very fact that God is going to save us in spite of ourselves. Because God, that's how much God loves us. It's a wonderful story to behold as you're reading this, and it's just over and over again. You're like, yeah, they deserve it. They turned their backs on him, and we're not that much better. So the story of redemption is the whole book, and I don't want to just go on and on. So that's your day 226. I'll see you tomorrow.